Kelly with KMS Performance. Welcome to KMS, and today we're going to be going over X3 clutching. We came out with a really cool clutch kit for the X3s that is truly best bang for horsepower. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the vehicle out, we're going to get a baseline, we're going to go over those numbers, and then we're going to install the KMS X3 clutch kit. Okay, so we just ran the vehicle, and here's what we have for numbers. We made about 133 horsepower, and importantly what I need to show you here is what the clutch is doing. So when we first take off, the vehicle's right around low 7,000 RPM range, and then as it goes faster, the mile an hours, or the actual engine RPMs go up. The X3 actually produces peak horsepower right around 8,000 RPM. So just by adjusting the clutch and getting this motor to run in its optimum power range, we're just going to pick up power that you already have in your X3. So let's get started. Alright, so obviously I'm a little bit under the weather on this situation, so Jim, one of our great technicians here at KMS Performance, is going to go ahead and perform the work so we can fully understand the easy way to get these clutch parts interchanged. Alright, so to make this install easier, what we've done is we've actually taken the lower bolt out of the sway bar. This allows us to sway it up like this, and the clutch will come out a lot easier. Okay, so Jim's going to go ahead and get started on clutch removal. Okay, it's a 22mm socket to remove the primary bolt. Clutch puller. And this is the tricky part on the Can-Ams. Roll the belt off first, and then you'll be able to roll the clutch between the shock tower and the sway bar.
Alright, so clutch is on the bench, and there's always specialty tools for any type of CVT clutches. We do so many, we always try to find a better way to make it work. So what we have found is 2 tire irons. You're going to go on the top of the clutch. If you notice, you want to enter the clutch with the spoon out, not down. So you want to like that. Takes a practice or two to get this down, but I'm going to use my forearms. I'm going to depress the clutch. And when you look down inside the clutch, it's kind of hard to show, but right here in any one of these access ports, if you look straight down in there, there's a nice little valley. Take your pry bar, and you're going to slide that thing directly down in there straight, and it'll sit right into that valley naturally. Lightly let up. Now your clutch is open, and now you can do the maintenance on the weights. You're going to use a T25 and an 8mm socket to remove the weights all the way around. Be careful when removing the weights. This type of clutch does have bushings on each end that will fall off, and you will need those for reinstall. Now all your weights are removed.
So now what we're going to do is the KMS X3 clutch kit is going to come with the secondary string, which we're going to show you how to remove the secondary and do that process, but right now we're going to finish up the primary here. What we have is we have 4 extremely light weights, and the way the system's going to work is you're going to put 2 heavy weights out here and then put the KMS weights here. So essentially it ends up being balanced. So we want a heavyweight here, and then the KMS weights will go here, 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 here. That way the clutch remains balanced.
Just put the heavy weights in because that's less likely to get them confused. And the installation is the same way as removal. You want to make sure inside that you clear the opening where the weight will rest so you don't get anything jammed up. Bolt goes in the same way, right to left. And I just put a nut on it to keep everything in its place. Just going directly across from it. We're going to put that other heavyweight back in. Same thing. Moving on to the light weights, or the KMS Performance weights. Just fill the rest of the slots. From there, tighten down each bolt and nut to torque spec. Remove your pry bar, and you're ready for install. Alright, so this is your factory weight, and 2 of these is what you'll reinstall directly across from each other. And this is the KMS weight. As you can see the difference, and those will go in the other 4 spots. And just to give a clear example of the difference in weights, there they are one more time, side by side.
Okay, we actually have 2 versions of the X3 clutch. One version carries 4 KMS weights, and that's going to be used for duner or race applications. And then for trail or desert applications, we're going to be using a 3-weight system. To install the 3-weight system, the only difference in the 2 clutch systems is going to be how many of the KMS weights are used. So on the desert version, we're going to have 3 weights, and the way you want to stagger it, you're going to have OE weight, KMS weight, OE weight, KMS weight, OE weight, and KMS weight. That way this system is balanced, and that's how you install them in the clutch. Alright, so now we're going to be removing the secondary clutch. We're going to be using a 17mm socket, and Jim's going to do the removal. Okay, so Jim now has the secondary clutch removed, and we're going to use this spring compressor to hold down this clutch while we do the removal. Right here, you'll notice that there's 3 very large Torx bits right here, screws. You want to make sure that when you put this in the spring compressor, you have access to these screws.
At this point, you really don't have to torque it down. You just want it finger tight. So when you get ready to bust these large torque screws out, it'll keep everything compressed and don't fly up at you. And if you noticed, I used the brass hammer, and these Torx bits actually withstand impact. So they're a little oversized, and that's why you saw me tap on the head of the Torx screws to make sure that they're fully seated and we don't strip them out. 3/4 inch wrench. I'm just going to make sure that as you release the pressure, everything comes up equally, no binding, no jumping. You don't want this thing to snag somewhere, that screw to come loose, and you get about a 1/2 inch clearance, then the secondary decides to come loose. It could be a bad day. Right, here on top. If there's still tension on this, don't keep going. Alright? Go until it's loose. If you get to a point and you still got tension on it and you're running out of thread, you can check it. If you see how easy that is to decompress, you can go ahead and take the rest of it off and remove the secondary. But if there's an extreme amount of tension up top towards the top, don't take the bolt off, because obviously for good reason. There you go. And that's how you gain access to your secondary spring. We're going to set this now. Keep in mind that the indexing of your rollers and going back into the helix.
Maverick spring, it has indexing pins. This allows you to increase and decrease the OE spring pressure. We're dramatically changing the spring pressure, so we're not going to have the indexing pins on the new spring. So we install the spring, install the spacer cup or the torsion cup, and put that down, and then Jim's going to go ahead and reinstall this secondary.
Same process as removal. Taking note of where my rollers are. I want them to line up where they're at. And what I was doing just now, as I set the secondary back over the helix and spring, I wanted to make sure the spring cup sat back inside of its home. It is possible to get everything clamped down and you could be just slightly off. Occasionally check underneath, make sure everything's happy, everything's aligned, and sitting and going back down into its helix. Another good reference point is you can look down through the secondary and ensure that your bolt holes are lined up with the helix. I bottomed out onto the helix. I'm just going to take a look down and make sure that my holes and everything are lined up. If I have to, I can back off the tension just a little bit. You can reach underneath, hold the helix, and you can actually turn it a little bit, not much. Just ensure you're lined, you can reinstall your bolts. In this aspect, it is definitely recommended to put Loctite on your bolts. Okay, so when this thing's fully collapsed, you're gonna find that your bolt's not quite gonna clear that, and it's gonna hang right on the edge of the tooling. To alleviate that, just back it off, not a lot, just a few turns, and this will allow you the space. This will allow you the space for it to clear. Once it's cleared, bring it down a little bit, and then the tool in, just like that. And you can continue with the install. You don't really have to worry about overstressing the bolt as long as it's completely compressed. The tooling will keep everything compressed and even, so you don't have to worry about snapping anything or breaking anything. But if you try to run it down by itself, there is potential for damage. That's that. Torque to factory spec, remove your spring, install your new clutch with the spring. Okay, now that we got our new spring in our secondary clutch, we're going to go ahead and reinstall it. You want to make sure that one, the vehicle is in gear, and the reason why you want it in gear is because the secondary shaft is actually splined, and if you don't pay attention, you can actually think that it's installed onto the shaft correctly, but it's actually not. And putting it in gear will help you ensure that you find the splines just right for the secondary to slide back on. In this case, this vehicle has got a clutch armor inside of it. So if he ever blows a belt, it protects his clutch covers. The best way that I have discovered to put these back on is with the belt actually on the secondary, and it helps alleviate any possible interference that you might have with the clutch armor. There it goes. Okay, halfway on there. If you notice it still free spins, I'm not completely on the shaft yet. It's in gear, it shouldn't do that. So now I know I'm still not on that shaft. Now we're in. Reinstall the secondary clutch bolt, and then torque the factory spec.
Okay, so we slipped the primary back onto the main shaft of the engine. Now we're ready to go ahead and torque the primary clutch. There's a lot of different ways to do it. This is the quickest way that we found to secure that primary clutch and hold it so you can apply torque. And torque the clutch. Beautiful. We're going to make a full pull and see how it results. Okay, so we have a stock ECU tune here, stock intake, stock exhaust. The only thing that we've changed is we've added the clutch kit. So we went from 133 to 154 on the peak power. And how we got that power was actually through the engine speed. So you can see right here, we're much closer to this 8,000 RPM mark, and it actually spikes a lot quicker on the front end. That's where these engines want to make peak horsepower. Now the car actually did a little bit of a burnout when we launched it, so it actually represents a little bit of a lower RPM point here, but we kind of get the point. The car is definitely making more power with the power you already have. We're just getting the clutch to play better.
First things first, nice little dyno jet kit here. When you order these from us and you want our tune, we can pre-program it to come with our tune. So this one is pre-programmed with your tune, and we're going to show you step by step on how to install it. Box, there'll be all the cables, wiring, and everything that you need to communicate with your vehicle. Okay. For this specific model, the data port to connect the tuner is underneath the dash. This little plug right here sits nice and happy right here. You unplug it, plug in your cable, your data cable. Okay, once you connect it, you're not going to start the vehicle, but you're going to push the start-stop button briefly, which activates the vehicle, the ECM, and also activates your dyno vision. And it's very easy to navigate through this. As soon as it comes up, it says retrieving required files of the ECM, or ECU, if you will. Then it comes up and says your Power Vision CX device is ready to flash to the connected vehicle. Hit OK. It'll automatically go in, and it's going to delete any type of non-capable files, compatible files, excuse me, that would not work for this engine. Once you get to that point, you hit the top button, go to Flash Tune, and it gives you all the files that are compatible with this vehicle here. Okay, the one thing that you will not see in this demonstration that I'm going to briefly explain is when you connect your device, as we've demonstrated up to this point, you will go to the Flash Tunes. When you click the Flash Tunes, it will show you a stock file, and then it will show you the dyno file that we've installed on the device after you've ordered it. Click down to the V2 DJT. Alright, DJT is the DynoJet file, whereas STK is the stock, so obviously we want to go from stock to max power, so we're going to go down here. When I click this button, or when you click the button for the first time, it's going to say this device is not married to this vehicle, pair with this vehicle. Okay, go ahead and click yes. Once you click yes, this will come up. It'll tell you everything about the version of the tune and the vehicle that it's getting programmed to, everything that's going on. Go ahead and click the check mark. It's going into a diag mode. Do not turn off key switch. You just go ahead and walk away for a few minutes and let this flash. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, so at this point, you are rewriting the ECU with the tuner, which can take up to about 15 minutes. So while we wait for the ECU to be reprogrammed, we're going to go ahead and show you how to adjust the wastegate. On this particular model, just reach up here, and there's a crease in this cover. You just pull back and up, and your center cover in the rear will come right out. This is your wastegate right here. This is what we're going to be adjusting. Now be careful, because if you just recently ran it, it is going to be very, very hot. There's actually a spring clip right here at the end of the wastegate arm, and you can generally get it by a light pull tab up. Like I said, it's hot. And then you just manipulate it out, and be careful, because if you drop it, you're gonna go fishing. And that right there is the spring clip that I'm talking about. Okay? If your wastegate has not been adjusted and is at factory spec, we recommend 5 full turns in. And there's a little 10mm nut right at the end of the arm that you'll have to break loose, which I have just done with a 10mm wrench. I'm going to take the arm, pull it off its resting point, and I'm going to count 5 full turns. Half, 1, half, 2, half, 3, half, 4, half, 5. That is 5 full turns right there. Go ahead and reinstall your arm. Lock down your nut. It doesn't take a lot of force. It's locked down. you're going to reinstall your spring clip. On the back side, you got a little big opening, and what you'll do is you'll put that over the notch, and you'll push in and down, and you should feel it snap back into its seat. Excuse me, in and up. I don't know if you heard that little snap, but it's there. Now, messing with your wastegate, if it has been previously adjusted, or if it is not at factory spec, we strongly recommend that you check the crack pressure of your wastegate on adjustment. Otherwise, bad things can happen. Okay, now moving back over to the tuning side of the ECU, you can see that it's been tuned successfully, and it's asking for the vehicle to be turned off for 45 seconds. Simply just unplug this device, remove your data port, remove the key to the vehicle, and once everything powers down, give it about 45 seconds, and then you'll be able to go back in and start the vehicle.
Okay, so we just got done with the final run and going over the results. So stock we made 133.8, then we installed the clutch tune, which is 154, and then we went ahead and installed the ECU tune, and now we're at 170. This is a 91 octane tune with stock intake and stock exhaust. I hope you enjoy. Have a great day. Thanks. Okay, so throughout this video we're using some tools, and we'll have them available for purchase. Installing this makes it a lot easier to put these clutch kits in. One is which is the primary puller for Can-Am. It's really good just to have it in the event that, you know, if you lose a belt on one of these and you got to go kind of get the belt parts out, really helpful here. And here is the actual secondary clutch tool that you're going to need to compress the spring down. You can substitute this tool with some threaded rod and some nuts and some deep sockets, but if you want the actual professional tool for it, this is a really good price point to put this in your archive of tools for your Can-Am. Thanks, have a great day.